Yes,
Hi,
sir.
Who's hosting us today?
Me.
Priyanshi. Hi,
Please
Priyanshi.
go ahead.
Hi, sir.
Over to you.
Okay, I'll start. Good evening, everyone. Hope you all are doing great. So, I welcome you all in this first series, the topic of which is relevance of emotional intelligence for self understanding and enhancing social network. Before starting with the session, I would request you all to please keep your mic on mute. Also, turn your videos so that we could make this session an interactive one. Also, please feel free to ask questions through the chat box or else raise your hands. They will be answered soon. So, I am Priyanshi Jain and I am from Guna, Madhya Pradesh. Currently, I am pursuing my Chartered Accountancy course and MBA from SIRT Bhopal. So let's take a quick glimpse of what BRATS exactly is. BRATS is an independent organization which is helping in bringing campus to corporates. BRATS aims to help the students to bridge the gap between theoretical knowledge and provides real-time experience in the fields of management and engineering. Let's have a look at the message given by our captain BRATS.
India is the largest demographic education hub. Still, there are about 4 lakhs of students going abroad for higher education year on year. But one side, if I'm seeing, a lot of Indians leading global corporates. That's a beauty of Indian talent which needs to be pulled out. BRATS. Now, BRATS, what is BRATS? Everybody's hearing, you need to know what is BRATS. BRATS is Brands, Research, Advertising, Technology, and Strategies. What we are actually trying to do out here. So our last 3 years research developed this platform to connect industry and institutions. What are platforms we actually need to connect? We want you to get ready for the industry while you're in the institute itself. You are thoroughly going through your curriculums, but there are a lot of real-time experiences, case studies, live projects, courses maybe, and that has to be enrolled into your internships, otherwise recruitments. That's what we are here to bring out through your BRATS. My name is Suresh Kumar Purapati and I'm the captain for BRATS. We already have about 1,000 plus students associated with us and a lot of students actually helping us to grow within the campuses, being our campus ambassadors. That's what we look forward to, and I welcome you all, and let's grow together. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Just a second now. Okay, so I feel so honored to have the pleasure to introduce our guest speaker of the evening, Mr. Ujjwal Bharadwaj. Mr. Ujjwal's passion for marketing can be traced to his pre-professional days. Since those days, he has been treading a marketing path, and in all aspects of his entrepreneurial life, he's gravitated towards unbounded creativity, capturing experiences and inculcating a motivated work environment. As an entrepreneur at Githro, Ujjwal has enjoyed an excellent track record of trade marketing, spectacles, exhibition management, brand activation, and event intellectual property management. I welcome you, sir. Now over to you.
Hi, people. Can you hear me now? Am I clear? I'm audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Fantastic. Thank you, Priyanshi, for such a warm welcome. And I thank BRATS, the team BRATS, for uh, this fantastic introduction and the happiness that is being bestowed upon me. To take you to the further to the presentation, I would I think ask Urvi to play the first slide. Can we do that, Urvi? Okay. The slide says we might be master of our own thoughts, still we are the slaves of our own emotions. Now, before I talk about emotional intelligence, let's just first of all understand what are emotions. Because emotions can be positive, emotions can be negative, emotions can take us to a different direction and can prompt us to take a different action altogether. So in our thoughts, we know that, we are the leaders. We are one of the best presenters in the class. We are the one who is going to come up with the best unicorn soon. But between the thoughts and action, there is a wall of emotions, and we are not able to cross that wall. And eventually we succumb to that. Slide 2 would be, please. Would we could do the second slide? Yes, thank you. So let us define the emotions, guys. Emotions is nothing but a conscious mental reactions, such as an anger or fear, subjectively experienced as strong feeling, usually directed toward a specific object, typically accompanied by physiological and behavioral changes in the body. It's basically a state of feeling. Now, when we talk about physiological and behavioral by behavioral I mean psychological. We talk about when we are put into a particular spot, our body eventually comes up with triggers the kind of an emotion. Say example, when you're attending a conference and you really know we want to nail it, but then you feel that you've got a lot of emotions that are running between in your mind. You have a sweaty palm, you have a different type of cortisol hormone, your body language is absolutely different, and then externally you're shaking a little bit, but you're not able to deliver that particular emotion, you're not able to deliver that particular communication correctly. And then we have different kind of emotions at different journeys of life. We have sadness, we have anger, we have fear, we have flirtatiousness, we have love as an emotion, we have happiness as an emotion, and we have sadness as an emotion, different kind of emotions that we go through. But before we go and read more about emotional intelligence, I would like to know that where are we right now in our emotional quotient. And for that, let's play a quiz and make this session a little bit more interactive. Over to the third slide, Bhuvi. So how well you read other people? I'm sure, I'm with one of the very intellectual bunch of audience here who really knows a lot of emotions about their peers, their friends, their family, and the college and the teachers that they come across. So let's start with the first one. Urvi, can you take it to the next slide? What is the kind of an emotion this man is exhibiting right now? Anybody? Any wild guess?
Anger.
Absolutely right. Okay, next slide. I'll explain you this emotion to you. Particularly when you see anger, you see muscle contraction of the furrow brow, the eyelids, the muscles, the lower eyelids tightens a little bit, and the upper eyelid, it will be raised. And when you talk about the lips, it tightens a little bit. When we talk about anger per se, it is more or less confused with disgust. In disgust, we normally raise the upper lip, and you have a wrinkle. You call it a crow wrinkle around the eyes. But anger as an emotion can treat you to different paths, and controlling this emotion is very pivotal for you. Moving to the next one. What is this emotion? What is this lady talking about here? Anybody?
Yeah.
Embarrassment.
Suresh, you can answer too.
Embarrassment.
Fear.
Pardon me? Embarrassment? No.
Fear.
Anybody else? Fear?
Fear.
What makes you say it's fear? What makes you say it's fear?
Her eyes.
What do you say about those eyes? What do you read in those eyes?
No, actually, it shows element of fear in that. And that's what I.
Fantastic. I missed your name. What is your name? I missed your name, dear.
Harsha.
Oh, that's a
Harsha,
fantastic
Harsha.
answer. Can you, Urvi, perfect answer. Can you give me the next slide, please? In fear, the typical way to know that, when you read a particular person, particularly in these turbulent times when, the physical human to human contact is confined only to a particular digital world. So it's very, very important and pivotal for us to understand the facial expression, the entire body language, and then it will help us to uh, gauge things better and understand the nuances, the intricacies that are very pivotal for us to take a logical decision. In case of fear, when we talk about particularly, the muscle contracts to pull eyebrows up. If you see the eyebrows, they are a little bit on the upper side. The eyelids, if you see on the left hand side of in the picture, the lower eyelid contracts and the upper eyelid raises a little bit, tad bit slightly. The face is absolutely straight. And when you talk about lips, they're pulled down sideways. And you can see them elongating a little bit. You can see a stretch in the lips part. And at the same time, when you talk about fear overall, we express the fear when we feel very physically or psychologically threatened. And that's when you see the eyebrows and the lips and the facial muscles getting contracted, and we get to know about this particular feeling. So when you come across any other person, when you see that, when you are attending a particular meeting, or for that matter, when you see that, the person is a little bit intimidated and he's feeling a little bit of fear within his or her body, you can really, really gauge it very well and act accordingly. Take it to the next slide, Urvi, please. Next slide, please. How about this one? He's very, very chirpy man. Is he flirtatiousness? Is this interest, happiness, or politeness? What do you call it?
Politeness.
Politeness? No.
Happiness.
Happiness?
Yes.
That's the right answer. Can you take on the next slide? So we have one person who actually understands emotion very well. Harshit, you are the one, right? That's fabulous. That's really good to hear. So a classic display when we talk about happiness, guys, is you see the muscles tightening around the eyes and pouching of the lower lid. When we talk about the corners, they're particularly little bit pulled. And when we talk about happiness, you see the crow feet. The crow feet is something that you see on the right hand side, on the left hand side of the eye. You see the three impressions. Those are called crow feet. And when you are attending a meeting, or when you're making a sales pitch, or when you're making a kind of a presentation, when you want to see a professor's face, you can really know that whether he is happy or not by just gauging this kind of emotions. And it is a little bit different from amusement. People get really confused, when we talk about amusement and we talk about happiness, because in amusement also, the corner lips are a little bit pulled up. But then you don't have the element of crow feet in it. Next question, please. Next one. Uri. How about this one? This is one of my favorite. This is one of the favorite emotions. Fabulous, guys. There's a movement going on today. Black Lives Matters, and pride. It's a fantastic emotion, and it's an emotion that people tend to get confused a lot. But then at the same time, I'm going to explain you what is this emotion all about. Can you play the next slide, please, Uri? Next slide, please. You see the head tilts a little bit backward. It's talking about strength there. You see the lips on the corner, with a slight smile. The smile is talking about that, yes, I'm here, and this is something that I've achieved, and you can really feel me. And when we talk about the jaws, they're completely thrust out. So that's how we talk about this particular emotions. Next slide, please, Uri, for me. How about this one? This is a very easy emotion to understand.
Surprise.
Surprise.
Yes. And the most easiest way to understand surprise is the eye movement. In the next slide, please, I'm going to explain you this emotion. The eyebrows and the upper eyelids, they rise. And when they rise, you know that, this is the element of surprise. This is the emotion of surprise, I'm sorry. And you can really gauge it. In the case of when we talk about shock, the eyebrows, they don't make the crow feet there. And when we talk about jaw here, the jaw drops. The next one for me will be. How about this one? This is also a very fantastic emotion. We all go through
Sadness.
this emotion.
Pain.
Shame.
Is it sadness or is it pain?
Pain.
It cannot be shame. It's pain.
Pain.
Fantastic. Fantastic. To the next slide, please, for me. I'm going to explain this emotion for you guys. It's when you talk about pain, when you talk about when a person is in pain, you see that the eyes are very closed tightly and the eyebrows are very low. The lips, they tighten up and they're pressed upwards. And when we talk about this particular feeling, when in pain, we read the entire body language of a person. You see a lot of movement in the hands. You see a lot of movements in the legs also. When the person is suffering, and at that point of time, they experience the pain and suffering and others through empathy. Next slide, please. How about this one?
Interest.
Interest.
No. Anybody else, please? Go for it.
Compassion.
Compassion.
Who said compassion here?
Sadness.
You said compassion?
Compassion.
Compassion it is. Compassion it is. You need to just change the slide. The next slide, I'm going to explain it to you. The eyebrows here, they pull in and up. The head tilts a little bit forward. And when you talk about the lips, they're pressed together. It's just like, you are empathizing with that particular person, and, you understand, you're trying to get into the other person's shoes, and, you're really compassionate about it. So the expression of compassion is most often confused with sadness. The eyebrows movements are similar in sadness and compassion, but with compassion, the lips press together. When we feel sad, our lips pull down. Next slide for me, please. How about this one? Is it excitement? Is it surprise? Is it desire? Or is it amusement?
Amusement.
Excitement.
Yes, excitement, no, it's just amusement. Next slide, please. I want to explain to you. It is amusement. In amusement, the very easiest way to know about amusement, whenever we feel very happy about something, whenever we laugh out loud, our head tend to throw back. Our eyes, the muscles that tighten around the eyes, but here again, the crow feet is missing. And when you talk about mouth, it doesn't open completely. The mouth with the muscle around it is a little bit relaxed, and it doesn't open completely. The genuine laughter often relaxes all the muscle movements in the body, and because of shifts in our respiration patterns, and that happens when we laugh. This rapid shift to a state of relaxation shuts off feelings of aggression and frustration. We're cooperating with other people, not competing. Next slide, please. This one. This is a little bit tricky.
Interest.
Are you playing the master slide? Because if you have the master slide, you have the answers with you. Yes, this is interest. Absolutely bang on. I'll explain you this particular emotion in detail. And it's just shift the slide, please. When you see interest, when you're interested in something, generally your head tilts a little bit forward. When you talk about the eyebrows, they're raised because you're interested in something, you feel nice about it. So, your body is kind of confirming to the fact that, yes, this is quite intriguing for me. I'd like it. And that's why you have the raised straight up eyebrows. The lips, they corner up a little bit, but they don't curl a little bit, curl at all. They're a little bit straight. And the expression of interest is related to the expression of happiness. It's more towards happiness. But when we are happy, we show more exaggerated upper movements of our lip corners, and the muscles around the eyes will contract more without eyebrow raising straight up. Next slide for me, please. How about this one? This is shame. Shame?
Shame.
Is it contempt? Maybe you're suspicious about someone. Is it contempt or shame? Or is compassion or sadness? Shame?
Shame.
Are you sure?
I would never guess this.
Yes.
Next slide. I'll tell you the answer. It is not shame.
Sadness.
It is sadness. I will tell you why. Because this is very important.
That is what I said. I would never guess this because I don't know that.
The expression of sadness is often confused with shame, and it shares the oblique eyebrows muscle movements of compassion. The skin pouches in the middle. When you see the skin on the forehead, it pouches in the middle. The eyebrows pull in and partly up, downgrade gaze, and the lips corner pull straight down. So when you talk about sadness and we talk about shame, they're more so, very close to. They are the first cousins to each other. But when it comes to sadness, the very easiest way to understand sadness is the corners pulled up straight down, and you see the lip movement. It's kind of tilted on the left hand side. So next slide, please, for me. How about this one? This is easy.
Shame. Shame.
Ha ha ha! This is very easy. This is very very close to sadness. But have you noticed? Before I go to the next slide, I'm going to explain it to you. When you look at this picture, it's a very straight face. It's a face when the person's face is down, his eyes are down. So when you talk about how we differentiate between sadness and shame, we look at the eyes. The person's eyes is pointing downwards. Please, can you put the next slide? I'm going to explain it. The next slide. Look at this. The eyes, they look downward. And this expression is, again, frequently confused with sadness. But shame doesn't involve the muscle movement of the sad face. The eyebrows pulled in, partly up, with the lip corners moving down. So it's a very, very, very straight face, but a little bit tilted down. Next slide for me, please. How about this one? This is one of the most contagious, and I would say, guys, one of the most dreadful and very scary emotion that everyone.
Love.
Compassion.
Love.
Oh, wow. I am
Love.
talking to a young bunch of audience, and they can never go wrong with love. And this is and let me tell you one thing, guys. That this is one of the this is an emotion which is one of the most contagious emotions. This is the emotion that rules all the emotions. And if I must give you an example, I will not name the actor recently who lost his life last month, and he had a fantastic IQ, but he was very, 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 very low in his EQ, unfortunately, which prompted him to take that drastic step. And when we talk about love, I'll explain you this emotion. Next slide for me, please. The head tilts to the side. When you're in love, when you're looking at a person, you have that kind of a feeling, and when you're very, very comfortable with him and or her, and you're trying to give him some sort of a sign by tilting your head to the right hand side or left hand side, any side. The lower eyelid tightens a little bit. Again, a sense of containment, sense of belongingness. And when you talk about the lips, corners, it kind of pulled down. Next slide for me, please. Now, I'm very, very elated and very happy to know that, I'm sitting with a very, very intelligent audience here. I'm sure you guys have got a very fantastic EQ quotient, and you are there with your IQ quotient. You are from different engineering colleges, management institutes. So, I'm very sure about it that your IQ is above the standard deviation, which is 100. But I wanted to know that, how much do you know about emotional intelligence? And in this journey right now, I will give you some tips and tricks. Definitely, I will tell you how you can tame that emotional quotient and use it as a strength uh, to inspire people around you, to motivate people around you, and motivate yourself uh, mentally, emotionally, and achieve a sense of happiness in your overall being. Next slide for me will be. Now, what is emotional intelligence? It's basically understanding your own emotions and understanding the emotions of others. It's basically the ability to recognize, interpret, and process emotions in yourself and others. When we talk about from psychology, when you talk about from a definition coming from Daniel Goleman, a leading psychologist, he describes emotional intelligence as an ability to perceive emotions, to access, generate emotions, to assess thought, to understand emotions and emotional knowledge, and to reflectively regulate emotion as to promote emotional and intellectual growth. So when we talk about emotional intelligence, guys, it is something that, it starts with the process of self-awareness. You really need to know about what kind of emotions that you normally have, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, whether you are self-motivated or not, whether you regulate your emotions really well, whether you have a sense of empathy, whether you motivate others, and how are you there in your social behavior and social networks. Next slide for me. So something very, very, these are the research results and facts that I would like to throw about on emotional intelligence and why it is important. This was a research that was conducted with, by Daniel Goleman, and it was done on 200 companies. And the results are that emotional intelligence is 2 times important than IQ and technical abilities for driving performance. And when we talk about the senior level position, emotional intelligence accounted for 90% of difference between the best and the rest, guys. Top 10% of the business leaders have high EQ quotient, and emotional quotient is responsible for 58% of the job performance. And the last but not the least, which is something that is going to be very intriguing and interesting for you, because you would be soon getting into your professional environment. People with high EI make as high as $29,000 more annually than their low EI counterparts. So this is a field which has been there for the last 50 years, and there have been so many psychologists who've been talking about it. And recently, Daniel Goleman, threw light on this particular subject. And in today turbulent times, when there is no physical contact, emotional quotient has gained popularity, and people are really looking forward to understand themselves emotionally. And even the HR managers are putting emotional quotient as one of the most important criteria to hire a professional. Next slide for me, Ovi. Now, guys, what is this place? You know this place? Anybody? Any wild guess again? What is this place? Have you seen this image anywhere?
Yes, sir. It's when the two seas meet, I think.
Yes, absolutely right. This is Atlantic and one is Pacific Ocean. Atlantic and Pacific Ocean. This is something that, I wanted to make you understand that what is emotional intelligence. People are always talking about emotional quotient versus intellectual quotient. But I personally feel, and a lot of psychologists have also put their effort on making people understand that it is an amalgamation. It's an overlapping field. You need to have a very high EQ, definitely, because IQ is developed when you're born by birth. You learn, as you grow, about your learning, about your logical reasoning, about your critical thinking, about your cognitive space, about your expertise. And from last, I would say, 20 years, you see that IQ, the trust on IQ, has been more than 100%. But when we talk about EQ, emotional quotient, we are kind of neglecting it. But when we talk about as a subject, emotional quotient is just right there. It's a perfect balance. It's a place where the IQ, the intellect level, and your heart, the emotional level, they meet. And in EQ, we talk about the 5 major components of EQ. One is a self-awareness, self-regulation, empathy, social skills when we talk about leadership and influence, and self-motivation. Next slide for me. Now, when we talk about elements of emotional intelligence, I had mentioned it earlier that elements of emotional intelligence is about self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship management. In self-awareness, when we talk about what is self-awareness, I'm going to throw some light on it later. But before that, what is self-awareness? Now, self-awareness is basically knowing your own emotions, knowing your strengths, knowing your weaknesses, knowing how you would like to react when you are in a particular situation, how you perceive things, what do you think about. So it's like kind of a mirroring. When you stand in front of a mirror and you see use yourself, you talk to yourself, you reflect your true sense. That is self-awareness for us. Now, coming back to self-management, this is pertaining to the leadership competencies. The self-management will have an emotional balance, adaptability, adapting to any kind of environment, achievement orientation, which is more towards your self-motivation, positive outlook. Then we talk about social awareness. We talk about empathy. Empathy is how you feel when you understand it about the person who, when you understand that, from the point of view of another person's shoes, when the other person who is how he's feeling, you understand from the other person's point of view. And when we talk about relationship management, we talk about influence, we talk about conflict management, quotient mentor, teamwork, and inspirational leadership. Next slide for me, please. Now, when you ask people, why are you in this job? And you get this response that I just do enough to keep it. What do you mean by this particular statement? What does this statement explain to you? Any guesses, please? Hello?
Necessity, sir?
No.
Uh,
Necessity is going to be.
Is it
not doing anything extra, not upskilling or something.
I would say that, it's a very wrong state of mind. When you talk about like you're just keeping enough to, you're just doing enough to keep it. It's a very wrong state of mind. When you motivate these people, you know that they are in the wrong side of their cortisol hormone. They're not comfortable where they are. They're not able to express themselves. They are in some sort of a soup. And what as a true leader you can do is that you can motivate them and ensure that these people come to their optimal zone and engage them in such kind of activities which really challenges them, and at the same time you're giving them a kind of a feedback which is very, very important. Next slide for me, Urvi. I'll explain you that in the next slide. Now here we are. It's a situation. It's a situation that you come across at work. It's a situation when you come across in your college too. Here we are depicting with 4 different personalities. We've got Sophie, we've got Shelby, we've got Isaac, we've got Courtney. Now, Sophie here she has a high EQ and a low IQ. Shelby, she has a low EQ and a high IQ. Courtney, she has a high EQ and a high IQ. And Isaac, he's got an average EQ and average IQ. Now, if I ask you, each one of you, who is going to perform better when it comes to a challenging task?
Courtney.
Can you please give me an answer for that? Yeah, please.
Courtney, sir.
So, Courtney has a high EQ and high IQ. Definitely, she's one of the leaders there. She knows how to balance it. She's at that optimal level that she can take the right kind of a decision. But how about Isaac with an average EQ and average IQ? Anybody? Suresh, you want to throw some light on that? Hello? Everybody there?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, tell me. When we talk about average EQ and average IQ, and as I explained you what is emotional intelligence, the person, Isaac knows about his emotions. He's very, very familiar about his emotions. He knows that, about his self-awareness. But then he's quite average
has
with it.
raised his hand.
Yes, please. Please tell me.
Yeah. So I was thinking about Isaac only because I think he can balance both the, he's a balance. He's in the middle of IQ and EQ, so he'll be better performing these tasks.
But absolutely, Isaac can do that. But I wanted to know that, if Isaac is exposed to a kind of a situation where, which challenges him too much. So with average emotional quotient, do you think so that he would be able to perform? Average IQ is, guys, if I must explain it, it's about 120, which is considered to be a decent IQ. From 120 to 150 is considered to be very, very good. Einstein had 160. So, but when you're exposed to a kind of a situation like what we are facing today in pandemic, when you see, companies getting closed, job losses around you, loss around you, with an average EQ, do you think so he'll be able to tame his emotions well?
I guess yes.
I would say not really, because I have given you the answer in this question itself. That Courtney, she, is going to definitely lead the bandwagon because she is the leader. But when I talk about EQ per se, an average EQ per se, that when you're exposed to a kind of a situation where you're not able to tame your emotions very well, you're not able to handle the pressure, you have a tendency to give up. You have a tendency to move more towards shall be, because having an average emotional quotient is also equally lethal when, and having a low EQ itself is not good to you at all. But then having a high EQ and a high IQ and maintaining the balance of high EQ and high IQ will ensure that you prosper well. Next slide, please, for me, please. Now, what is the flow and optimal state for true leaders? What is the flow and optimal state? The flow and optimal state for true leaders. Uri, for next slide, I'm going to explain that. In positive psychology, a flow state, also known as colloquially as being in the zone, is the mental state in which a person performing activity is fully immersed in feeling of energized focus, full involvement, and enjoyment in the process of activity. Now, it's a state when you are challenging yourself completely, but at the same time, you have a very, very correct emotional balance. Move be a next slide for me. I'm going to explain that. Now, researchers, when they researched on sportsmen, creative intellects, businessmen, politicians, ballerinas across different skill sets, they asked a simple question to them: that tell me about a time when you outdid yourself, when you outperformed yourselves. What was your state of mind in that? So the results that were that they were in the unprocurable attention state. The unprocurable attention state is something that cannot be shifted. They were completely focused. They were 200% attentive. Second was they were extremely flexible and adaptable. That means that whatever that was coming their way, they could really handle it. The third one was the skills were challenged at the highest level and maybe even beyond. And the last one was it feels great. You get the sense of mojo. You are in that rapture. You're in the bliss and you're in the joy state of mind in being a flow state. Next slide. I'm going to explain you with a case study here. Now, what is the optimal state, guys? The optimal state, as you can see in the graph, when you talk about the performance, when you talk about the challenges, the highest level, you're challenging yourself completely. But when you talk about the pressure, the anxiety, and when you talk about the stress, it's between moderate to high. Of course, it's going to be on a little bit on the higher side because you're feeling the joy, you're feeling the involvement, you're feeling you're energized. So it's towards high, but balancing the entire act. And you really don't want to go beyond that. You don't want to go into the zone of delusion where you completely burn out and you completely strain out. And rather, you don't really want to sit on the bore out and towards the less moderate category. Next slide for me, please. Now, this is the example that I wanted to actually quote you, and we all can really identify with this particular image. This is the example of optimal state of mind. At this very point of time, our very own M.S. Dhoni was in an unprocurable attention. He was completely focused. Now, when you talk about focus, he was completely goal-oriented. He was completely self-motivated. He was not. He had cancelled the noise around him. He knew what he really wanted to achieve at that particular point of time, and he was not persuaded. He was not deviated from the goal that he was actually looking at. Then at the same time, he was very flexible and adaptable. At this point of time, he was very sure that wherever the ball is going to come, he's going to adapt to that particular stance and he's going to hit it outside the park. And whatever that it comes, that came his way, he was able to really handle it. The third part was that, he was able to, he was challenged at the highest level. Just imagine the kind of pressure that this man was going through at this very moment of time when his skills were challenged, his emotional capabilities were challenged, and he just overcame that and defined himself as a true leader. And the last one is, it felt really great. He was just feeling that butterflies in his stomach. He could really feel it. He could feel the rapture. He could feel the bliss. He could feel the joy. The state of mind was completely in the flow state. And when we talk about the flow state here, and I would like to go back to that the slide that I had explained you guys about, where every true leader has to make sure that his employees are in the optimal state of mind. You really need to enjoy the process of being in that flow state. Next slide for me, please. How do you achieve the optimal state? Now, when we talk about how do you achieve the optimal state, it has to have clear goals. It has to have an immediate feedback, and then you challenge and you grow your skill set. It's more or less about when we talk about incentive, extended practice, and the feedback. Next slide, please. Now, components of emotional intelligence. We had talked about self-awareness. We had talked about self-regulation. We had talked about motivation. We had talked about empathy, and we talked about social skills. Now, what I would like to do here is that make you explain the components of emotional intelligence using a case study of M.S. Dhoni. Please, next slide for me. What is self-awareness here? Now, self-awareness, is Dhoni self-aware? Extremely. You have to be aware of your strength and weakness to catapult yourself from a small town to the team captain of Indian cricket team. Dhoni's ability to insulate himself and his team from extraneous influence in order to focus on the game is one of the biggest strengths. MSD manages emotions well, as you can see, and we all know it. He keeps his cards very close to his chest. He knows no matter what is the situation, he can always choose how to react to it. When things get tough and all eyes turn to the leader, and if the leader is composed and calm, it lends a great strength and hope to the team. And it also gets the opposition jolted. So being self-aware is knowing about your strengths, is knowing about your weaknesses. You talk to yourself. You know that when you pen it down, that these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses, these are the emotional triggers. This is something that I'm not able to come out of my comfort zone, or for that matter, I'm not able to express myself. And when you see yourself from a bird's eye view, you understand that yes, my thoughts, my actions, my reactions to this particular emotions, you can read them really, really well. So when talk about Dhoni, when talk about self-awareness, he's completely self-aware about himself, and he's never and ever influenced by any external factors. Next slide, please. How about self-regulation? Now, self-regulation, once you know that you're aware about your emotions, it's time for you to regulate it. And let me tell you that leaders who regulate themselves effectively rarely verbal attack others. They don't make rushed or emotional decisions, stereotype people, or compromise their values. Self-regulation is all about staying in control. And this is the best way to sum up MST. This element of emotional intelligence, according to Goldman, also covers the leader's flexibility and commitment to personal accountability. Dhoni is unperturbed, equally calm in success and failure alike. And guys, you must have actually noticed that Dhoni has often said that he doesn't believe in dwelling in his past. He always is living for the present, and he doesn't really think about the future. He's a very cool and calculated captain. Was a cool and calculated captain. And he is adept in handling criticism and praise. And you must have seen that Dhoni doesn't show a lot of expressions when he is attending any press conferences, and that's another aspect of regulating those emotions. Next slide for me, please. Motivation. I don't have to tell you that Dhoni is one of the finest leader who used to motivate his team. Obviously Virat Kohli is there, but at that time when Modi, when Dhoni was had, if you guys can recollect that incident of Jogendra Singh, gave Jogendra Singh that last over. I hope you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Remember, he gave the last over to Jogendra Singh to bowl that particular over. As a leader, he motivated his team so much that he got each and every team member to play on that optimal level that I was talking about. So a self-motivated leader works consistently towards his goal and has extremely high standards for work. Here, motivation comes from within and is more positive when you compare it to the extrinsic factors that affect your motivation. Dhoni's locus of control is very interesting. He is not blinded by the glamour and money. He plays for the game, for the love of the game, and he competes with only himself and none other. Now, the most important part of motivation is not really trying to motivate externally, not trying to motivate the people around you. The first aspect of motivation is self-motivation. You need to have the kind of a goal congruency. You should know what you want to really achieve, and the motivation should not be attached to greed, should not be monetized, I would say. It should be completely pious, it should be completely sacred, it should be completely I would say goal oriented. Next one from you, please.
Ujjwal, I would like to add one point out here, if you
Yeah,
allowed me.
please
Talking
go
about
ahead.
motivation. Yeah, so when we're talking about motivation,
Yes,
so you said, that doesn't come from the external factor, that is within. And
it's
again,
within.
you said it's about self-motivation. Okay.
Absolutely.
So there are these three are different factors as comparative when, as per me,
You're
waiting
talking.
can be,
Hmm?
yeah, self-motivating also can be from external, that is one, and within what you feel, that also can happen externally. And as personally, if I believe motivation always come from the external factors, that is what my strongly believe is,
No,
because
I
uh,
I I can say that. You can say that definitely. But what I am trying to imply here, or I'm trying to implicate here, Suresh, is that when we talk about self motivation first, when we talk about self awareness, when we talk about regulating those emotions, unless and until you're not motivated intrinsically, unless and until you don't have that desire to achieve something, you don't have the goal, you don't have a clear goal in front of you, right? Your goal congruency is zinch. Then seeking external motivation is not something that you would be able to achieve very easily. Unless and until your emotions are tamed very nicely inside, unless and until you don't control your emotions within, as a person, as an individual, you don't know about yourself completely. It's very difficult to seek motivation externally. So that's what I'm trying to talk about here. When you motivated from the external or extrinsic factors, say example, I would say that glamour can be, or money can be, or fame can be, or power can be, or external factor to get
so
motivated to get.
you name anything. So see, what I have been reading from my whatever the time I know,
Mhm.
motivation always from within, and we have seen a lot of might be seen a lot of quotes on social media sharings, self motivation and
Mhm.
all these things comes, and
Mhm.
the motivation doesn't come. It has to from within, but as in what I perceived completely, and my learnings are what I was and what I am today, whatever the motivation factors which is influenced me and motivated by external factors more than what I used to be. And I
Mhm.
have worked upon and I understood what will work for me and what is not working for me. Even though self-motivating also, there is always an example. If I'm setting out a goal, okay, as you
Mhm.
said,
Mhm.
it has to be naive, it has to be with some kind of a meaning. But yes, in certain kind of scenario, it can be money also. You cannot say no, because that runs practically, it runs everything. As per me, what I'm saying is comes which you need to grasp positively. That is the first thing which I strongly believe. And then, yes, how you motivate yourself and others. Uh, when you influence, as per me, when you influence, you always motivate 10 other people around you, and this people also follow you. If you see Wolf of Wall Street kind of a movie, some of the clips you find how it actually works out. A guy who used
I'll
to
come on that. I'll come
just
on that. You're absolutely right there.
money.
I'll come on that. I'll come on that for sure. I'll come on that for sure.
Yeah, so that's my strong feeling, because motivation, of course, that drives the life.
See, you're right in one way. Which when you look for motivation externally, definitely glamour and money. It can be fame. It can be anything. It can be position. It can be car. It can be anything. You can attach motivation to an object. You can attach motivation to a position. You can attach motivation to anything for that matter. You can attach motivation to peace. Uh, you know. But here, when we talk about emotional intelligence, Suresh, when you talk about self-awareness first, and motivation comes in the self-regulation aspect of it. So, unless and until you don't know about your own emotions, unless and until you don't know about your own strengths and own weaknesses, and you are just blindly chasing a goal like, say, I want to become Bill Gates tomorrow, right? But within my own sphere of life, within my own loop of emotions, I'm not at all, I would say, stable. I don't know I don't know about my strengths. I don't know. I'm not even trying to discover my strengths for that matter. I know about my weaknesses, but then I'm not trying to work on them. And then you attach your motivation to any external thing. I'm sure you will not be able to achieve. So first of all, what I'm trying to implicate here or trying to explain here is that motivation should be intrinsic. It should be, you should be self-motivated as a person, and then eventually when you go to the other stage of another component of emotional intelligence, which we call it social skills, then you try to motivate people around you, and within that sphere, you when you are very very emotionally balanced, Suresh, then you would be able to uh, achieve what you are looking for.
I'll tell you something. Addition to this,
Yes.
uh, I may not be knowing what I'm capable of, but it happens so many times that 10,000 people, 10 people or 1,000 people might come to you and say, "यार तो कुछ कर सकता है." These kind of things turns up.
Yes.
As I can give you an example of my, my own. I never wanted to be an entrepreneur, but you know it very well, the turning points when others said, when you created so many brands under some other, you're working for some organizations, it will
Yes.
be
Yes.
much easier for you to create a brand. So
Yes.
I wasn't in favor of becoming an entrepreneur, but that really actually made me think and work upon myself, and took that positively and worked upon, and here I am. So what is a brand all about? Some mentors come and tell you, this is what you're capable of, these things can work out for you. So it's a kind of a motivation, and it actually guides you to work upon yourself, and pointing out where I'm lacking, where I'm not lacking, I'm really up to the mark, but doesn't, I'm not. So all these things, even the self assessment also, you require, I think, positive attitude towards motivation, anything like to work upon. So
I would second
external
that.
affairs,
I would second that, Suresh. I
does
would
come.
second that. I will second that. I will second that. And I would actually explain it to you. And I think all the students are here right now. When Suresh has just given his own example, he himself is a case study in it, when he was director of a very, very big company called Space and People. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
You weren't audible.
Yeah, I'm audible, right? So,
Yes.
so Suresh, you gave an example of motivation, and you never wanted to become an entrepreneur, and eventually, like when you dig deep into, when you jumped into this field of entrepreneurship, and you started your own company, Umbrella Ages, and within 6 years or 6 years, if I'm not wrong, you've touched heights. When you were an entrepreneur in a company, when you were already a director of space and people, the drive to become a director was basically self motivation. When you started off your career, maybe I don't know when you started off your career from which company, but when you started from a junior level position and you reached to uh, being a director of a company, there was always a self motivated leader who was just working consciously, consistently towards his goal. And when you achieved that particular goal, because I'll tell you what, the most beautiful thing about life, the most beautiful thing about emotion, guys, is that they're not permanent. It's always changing. When you try to be right, tomorrow you're going to be wrong. And then again, when you are going to be wrong, again, you want to be right. So your journey, when I'm talking about particularly, when you start from a junior level, and you struggle and you work hard, and you go to become one of the top leading entrepreneurs of an organization, you have that kind of a self driver, the kind of itch, the kind of a trigger that really motivates you as a person. And you are, I'm sure, like external factors, when you talk, we can call it noise also sometimes, but external factors, external motivation is always there, and you always get influenced by that. But emotional intelligence, or when I'm coming back to this particular topic, or when I'm talking from point of emotional intelligence, it's first about knowing yourself, and then about feelings of others. Next slide for me, please. Empathy. Now, this is one of the most important, I would say, components of emotional intelligence. Leaders with empathy have the ability to put themselves in someone else's situation, guys. Now, when you are a leader, you really should be able to understand the other person's mindset. You should be able to synergize with the thoughts of the other person. And remember one thing, guys: empathy and sympathy are two different things. Empathy does not come with emotions per se, but sympathy does. And then you end up taking the decision on the base of the emotion called sympathy. So empathy is just getting into someone else's situation. And leaders particularly help develop the people on their team, and they challenge others who are acting unfairly. They give a very kind of a constructive feedback and listen to those who need it. And when we talk about this particular image, guys, you remember this image? Anyone who remembers this image, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any,
It was
you
it
remember?
was Saurav Ganguly's last test, if I could recollect. Mahendra Singh Dhoni gave him captaincy during the last.
For the last 5 overs. So Dhoni as a leader, if you see, like, he knows the classic. He understands empathy very well. He could really understand the emotions that Saurav Ganguly must be going through at that point of time, leading the country for a very longest time, guys, and being one of the most successful captains again. So at that point of time, like, this small step, the small action that Dhoni took just now, at that time, at that point of time, of making Ganguly the captain for last 5 overs, was the turning point, and that's how he really defined this important component called empathy. And when we talk about one of the quotes that Dhoni, and I'm going to quote that particular thing, that what Dhoni said was that we should also believe in ones who failed in the team. At crucial times, a team member who was not able to deliver might do miracles. And this was way before when he tried, Joginder Sharma to come up and do that last magical over. So empathy, guys, of realizing of being into someone else's shoes is one of the most important aspects of emotional quotient. Next slide for me, please. Now, Suresh here and kids here, we can talk about social skills. Social skills is something where, once you are self-motivated, once you are in line with your emotions, once you are able to regulate your emotions, once you are able to, cancel the noise around you, we get into the social skill aspects, and at that point of time, you try and motivate others, you take up the leadership roles, you work as an influencer more than anything else. And a leader who do well in the social skill element of emotional intelligence are even great communicators. I'm not talking about the linguistic barriers here, guys. I'm talking about communication per se. Uh, Leaders who have good social skills are also good at managing change and resolving conflicts diplomatically. They don't really react to a particular situation. They are very much in control, and they set an example with their own behavior. And since when Dhoni, if I'm not wrong, became captain in 2007, Dhoni has used his networking and social skills to garner a respect from his team members and seniors and juniors alike. He gives respect and he gets respect. And the art of managing the social skills here that you see in this particular image, he's empathizing. He knows that the emotion attached with this wonderful 80-year-old lady which who has come here just to see Dhoni. And as a true leader, he stood up and he just took charge, and the team followed it, and the team respected him for this particular emotion that he really exuberated here. The next one for me, please. Now, we had talked about self-awareness. We had talked about the self-awareness aspect where what is self-awareness? Self-awareness is doing about your own emotions and emotions of others. So here I'm going to tell you give you around 10 tips to how to be more self-aware. Next slide for me, Obi, please. First one, guys. Now, this is something very important as an engineering students also. Maybe, some of the engineering students have some problems of communication. They're not able to actually communicate themselves properly at big forums, and maybe sometimes it happens with the management students also, that once we are asked to present a topic or a case or anything, they get sweaty palms and they get anxiety issues, they get anxious, and they are not able to perform at their most optimum level. So the first thing about self-awareness and the basic fundamental about self-awareness is getting out of the comfort zone. And guys, have you heard that the magic happens outside the comfort zone? The same is true about emotions. People have the tendency to avoid discomforting feelings, but this is not a long-term solution. You should allow the feelings to surface till the time you are trying to stop the feelings that that okay, I'm not feeling very comfortable right now, I should just negate this feeling, ignore this particular feeling. But then the problem is going to happen is that this feeling is going to haunt you every time. So what you should do is just get out of the comfort zone and always remember something that uh, the great minds of our present daily tasks is to do something unpleasant in order to expand your frontiers. And when you practice that, when you get out of your comfort zone, and when you tread against all the odds, uh, you will feel the energy coming in. Next slide for me, please. This is something very, very, very important. And as when we talk about emotional quotient or emotional intelligence, one thing that you guys have to really identify is that identify your triggers. You can just pen it down. You should know what really pisses you off, what really upsets you, what really makes you really happy. You should know that, that what are your triggering points. And trigger is a person. It can be a situation, it can be a condition, it can be your snooty boss, it can be your professor, it can be anything. It can be music, which actually gives you a high. It can be anything. So what you really need to do is, like, in the art of self-awareness, that you really need to identify what really triggers you. And the most important thing that you really need to know at that point of time is that you should be able to you should be able to gauge the response that you do once that you the thing about the thing that really triggers you. You should be able to understand that the response that you normally give about the element that really triggers you. The next one. Do not judge your feelings. Never. It can be a good feeling. It can be a bad feeling. It can be a positive feeling. It can be a negative feeling. Never make a decision when you have on the basis of your feelings. Feelings are something that it's not permanent. It always actually goes after some certain point of time. So never really judge your feelings. The next one for me, please. Don't make decisions in a bad mood. Now, this is something that is quite common right now these days. That think of depression, or think of feeling down, or think of being very unlucky. So at that point of time, whenever you take a decision, when you are in a bad mood, it's going to bounce back, guys. So when you're in a very bad mood, just give yourself a little bit of time, just ease it out a little bit, and then take the decision. Next one for me, please. Holds absolutely true. Again, the same is true when you are on the other side of the equilibrium. Don't make decisions in the good mood. When you're in a good mood, you tend to splurge. You tend to take some sort of a decision that you feel that it was quite irrational, and you tend to overestimate it. And maybe sometimes when you're in a good mood, you end up buying something really expensive, and you feel that, oh my God, that I think I paid really too much for that. So don't take decisions when you're in a very good mood. Next one for me, please. Next one. Yes. Get to the bird eye view. This is very important. You need to look yourself from above. You need to ascend, basically, and really gauge that why did you reacted in your reaction was there in that particular situation. Why did you reacted like that when you were when one of your snooty professors really asked you to leave the class? And 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 getting the bird's eye view is very important, because it's like a kind of a Google Earth in you. When you really look yourself and you imagine yourself as a third person, and when you really see how you reacted, why you reacted, and what prompted you to give that kind of a reaction. Next one, please. This is very important. Again, as Suresh was talking about, find your emotions anywhere. It can be media, it can be from movies, it can be from literature, it can be from song. Because once, Will Smith, a very fine actor, said that the key to life is running and reading. There have been billions and billions of people, and there is not a problem that has not yet been solved. So, when you get this kind of an emotional loop, always look around, always search around on media, in movies, in anywhere. You may be able to identify with this kind of emotions. Next one for me, please. Check your value metrics. You should have a very healthy value metrics, and you should act according to that value metrics. Your value metrics can be something like that. You want to be, you want to be a VP in in your job. Your job, your colleagues are treating you really well, and you want them to treat you very well again. That can treating each other nicely can be one of the values that you have. It can be value of trust. It can be value of responsibility. It can be value of anything. It can be even sustainability. So you should always check your value matrix, and you can alter them accordingly, but never take decision which is outside your value matrix. Next one for me, please. Oh, this is very important. Again, now keep a check on yourself, especially when you're in stress. In stress, you tend to, your body tries to behave very differently. Sometimes, you feel that, when you're completely stressed and completely burned out, you don't take care of yourself. You you don't take care of yourself in terms of your physical aspects, in terms of your mental aspects. So just make sure that whenever you are in stress, just make sure that are you doing something out of your regular routine or regular curriculum. So just keep a check on that, keep an eye on that. The next one, please. And it's the last but not the least, remember the windows of knowledge. There's an intimate part of your body that nobody knows, and there's a shared part which is public. And between these two parts, there's a spot which we call the blind spot. The blind spot is something that only you can see, maybe you cannot see, but for that you need to take a constructive feedback. You can confine in your colleague, you can confine in your friend, you can confine in your friends, and they will be able to help you out and identify your blind spots. So let's have the last one. The next slide, please, for me. Now, I started off this presentation on with a thought, and again, I'm ending it on a thought that wisdom tends to grow in proportion to one's awareness to one's ignorance. So I would say that, just do not ignore yourself. Just try to be aware of yourself. Just try to be aware of your emotions. Just try to be aware of your how to regulate those emotions. Just try to be aware of the surroundings, the people around you, and their emotions, and you will be sorted out. So I think I have summed it up, and I'll be more than happy to take any questions from anyone. Anybody? I'm sorry I've exceeded the time, and you might have guys have noticed that I could not really. I was looking there and here, and every time there was some sort of a technical glitch that Urvi and we had a discussion about that. Our presentation's running there, and just trying to catch up here and there. So the glitch won't be there next time. So any questions, guys? I would be more than happy to help you. I have even left kind of an exercise that Urvi is going to share with you, and I'll be more than happy to resolve your personal issues. Urvi is going to send you that questionnaire. And any questions, guys?
I think Harsha had a question.
Please, Harsha.
No.
Okay, Srivastava.
Hi, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing absolutely fine. Hi, Srivastava.
Sir, it was a great session so far. Great insight, great job, sir. Thank you so much for giving us some time.
You're most welcome, Srivastava.
Sir, regarding self-awareness, when I'm talking about myself, I'm completely self-aware, sir. Like, I know my strengths, I know my weaknesses, I know my trigger points, I know how to do, but I won't implement it, sir. Like, sadly, unfortunately. Like, I feel that I would have been at a different place if I would have implemented. My plans are good, my plans are excellent, but I can't keep control, sir. Like, first thing is procrastination. Second thing is I can't implement. I am in this shell, sir. I don't know really. I hate to admit it, but I don't know how to find out how.
See, with the question that you've asked, first of all, it takes a lot of will, guts to actually, first of all, acknowledge and endorsing the fact that, you were going through such kind of a turmoil. Let me tell you one thing, that's the first step to positivity, right? So I would like to congratulate you for that, that you are aware of your strengths and weaknesses, you are aware of your emotions, but, just after self-awareness quotient, where I told you that, that the way to, how to control the self-awareness, I gave you some tips and tricks for that. But when I talked about the next step, it's about self-regulation. In self-regulation, you'll be able to maybe suspend the judgment about yourself, that okay, I am aware of myself, I'm aware of my emotions, and now I want to actually take it to a different level. Now when I'm actually trying to communicate with people, I'm not able to get the desired results. I'm again stuck in that same quotient and cocoon. So for that, there's a different exercise. What my life flight said that, in the next session, we would be talking about self-regulation. In first session, we talked about self-awareness, where, you, as you told Srivastava, that, you are aware of yourself. But when in the next session, when I'm going to take the next session with all you guys there, so I'm going to be talking about the self-regulation and how to tame it. The question that you're actually asking me right now, we'll find answers there. And again, we will follow the same pattern of starting it with some sort of a quiz. This time, I'm going to make sure that the quiz is going to be difficult. Everybody answered my quiz this time, so I know I'm sitting with a very, very intellect and very nice bunch of people, future leaders, and rightly so, you'll find them on Strat Edu. So That's how I can. That's how much I can actually help you. Right? Anybody else?
Shubham, you wanted to ask a question.
Yes.
Shubham, please go ahead.
A very good evening, sir.
Good evening, Shubham.
Sir, there's a bit of confusion whenever I have come across finding my weakness and strengths. I mean, not as in team management skills or corporate level skills, but when it came to myself, like my own strengths and weaknesses. Because I could see a point where I could differentiate the corporate skills that I have strengths and weakness in, and my own skills that I lack. So I have taken some of the emotional intelligence tests online. So I was just thinking about it. How much should I rely on the results of those tests?
It varies from what test that you take it. If I would say that the open-ended tests that you find it online, they are. I would say that they are also apt to give you a little bit of insight. But I would say that EQ is a journey. It's not something that you would be able to tame your emotions and you'll be able to control your emotions and you'll be able to change your emotions in overnight. It's a process. It's a journey. And when I talk about self-awareness, guys, and I think I'm going to talk about and I'm going to just tell the same thing to Srivastav also, that self-awareness itself takes around almost around 2.5 months, maybe 3 months, maybe 4 months, or maybe around a year. So what I am trying to tell you is like first question here from you again is that were you talking about cognitive skills or were you talking about cognitive strengths or weaknesses? I'm talking about the IQ part, or were you talking about strengths and weakness in terms of the emotional quotients?
Sir, emotional quotient.
So what kind of emotional quotient are we talking about? Like what kind of let's talk
Sir,
about emotions.
yes, sir.
A
Like
little
for
bit.
example, at times I could be
Mm-hmm.
very aggressive,
Yes.
and at the same time, after just few seconds, I would be more of an understanding person who would actually calm myself. Like I would also think about my actions, that okay, that was not good. I should have acted that way, and I should have not been acting this way. This was not a good idea. So sometimes I couldn't differentiate at what point should I stop myself or should I let it go, because it's just my behavior.
No, I'm talking about you talk about this emotion called aggressiveness. Right now, my first question to you is like as I'm trying to understand it, what you just said, that does this aggressiveness leads to does it construe to an action, or whether this aggressiveness is tamed at a very right time. Now when you talk about it, when I talk about what we're trying to imply is that say example. I don't like the face of the person who's actually standing right in front of me. And somehow I find that the face very irritating. So what I do is I just go and I punch him on his face. And the moment I punch him on his face, I suddenly realize that, oh my God, what the hell have I done? I have punched an innocent guy. So that emotion has uh, has got into an action. So my first question is that when you talk about aggressiveness, is aggressiveness related to an action, or is it just an emotion that you control it and then you really realize it that oh my God, what was I about to do? That's what I wanted.
Actually, it stays in verbal action only. It doesn't go to
Verbal
physical.
action.
It doesn't go
Let
to
me
physical, because most of
physical.
the times, if that has been the case, it would be a far distance. That would be a far from a distance. Yeah.
See, I'll tell you what. Verbal diarrhea is worse than physical diarrhea, guys. Verbal diarrhea is something that is more painful, guys. Let me be very
Yes, it
honest.
is.
So come into a very serious note that and particularly when I say that when you abuse someone, when you take out anger, when you try to demean someone at that point in time, right? You feel that yeah, you feel
Can I
very
take it,
great.
Ujjwal?
Yes, please.
Ujjwal, can I take
Oh,
it?
please take it from here. Yeah, please.
Shubham,
Yes,
okay.
Suresh, go ahead.
Yes, sir.
I'm very confident that you'll understand. If somebody come, कोई आपको आके बोला कि that तुम गधे हो, ठीक है, तुम गधा बनते हो. I need an answer.
Right, sir.
नहीं, I'm just asking you. कोई आके तुम्हें गधा बोला, तुम गधा बनते हो?
No, sir.
नहीं. मगर तुमने जब शुरू कर दिया, तुमने मुझे गधा बोला, you started reacting, तभी तुम गधा बनते हो.
Right, sir.
So it is all about how you react. That is what the Dhoni story is all about. When he was becoming Dhoni, Mahendra Singh Dhoni, as the brand, there are a lot of emotional incalculatives and taking up risks and reacting to it. If you might have seen him in a lot of places to the public and the media, you just go and watch him. The kind of control, the kind of balancing it is called, Yes, this does come when you're speaking to a lot of people. And yes, when we are conducting grad talks also, I think, in the practice also, we see this every day. It's all about how you balancing. And the good part is you are not reacting. You are actually knowing it. There are a lot of practice you require to balance your own anger or maybe happiness. Any kind of an emotion, you need to know how to balance it. So that is something, an art which you need to practice it with people in your daily lives. कुछ लोग है ना, इतनी सी छोटी बात सुन के बहुत खुश हो जाते हैं. A lot of people either react very immediately, and a lot of people who go sad, who actually gets anger, and positive बातों से ज़्यादा ना, the negative things actually which attracts a person very faster, so they react very immediately. But if you actually focus and control on the negative part and submit it in a very subtle manner, and if you actually bring in the positive things and discuss, it actually shows your presence also, where you actually spare your time with your friends, where you want to be. These all incalculatively tell you how you balance your own self. So that is what you need to know. But if you start reacting, you're in the trap. Once you start reacting now, then you're in the trap. So that's something which you need to understand. And yes, patience, that is something which you learn with the time.
And I think Shubham, another thing that I would like to add, Suresh, here. I mean, completely. When you talk about, give you 10 tips on self-awareness, correct? The first thing is that you should really identify your trigger. The first aspect was that what really pisses you off. At that point of time, you should be intelligent enough to know that okay, this is my triggering point, and this is the kind of a feeling that I'm getting. I should really not judge my feeling. I should not really react to those feelings. So if you had paid attention on my third point when I was talking about do not judge your feelings, I was trying to say that that once you get those kind of feelings, just don't judge them. Just don't make those feelings get into the action part. You should need to really cordon them off, negate them at that very point of time, rather than getting into that verbal diarrhea that you were talking about. Because I must tell you, my friend Shubham, it all starts off uh, with verbal first, and slowly it becomes behavioral, and eventually it becomes physical. So it's very, very important for you to really tap this particular feeling at this nascent stage of your life, rather than making it as a permanent emotion inside your in your heart. So I would say that do not stop judging your feelings. Just don't judge your feelings at all. And first part is, the moment you get triggered by something, it can be any damn thing, you really at that point of time need to understand that this is just a trigger point, and I really need to control myself. What Suresh gave a fantastic example, that someone calls you Ghada. So Ghada was a trigger. The moment you get triggered, oh, you called me Ghada, so tu Ghada. So at that point of time, you really become a Ghada, because you have really that that person has triggered you. You're fallen into the trap. And why I gave you that Dhoni example was that at that point of time when the bowler was intimidating him on that last freaking delivery, he was trying to intimidate that the Dhoni completely. He was trying to read Dhoni's body language. Dhoni was very composed. He knew that, okay, he's going to ball me on the left side or right. And so my goals is very, very, very clear. I have to hit this bloody ball out of the park. So that's what I can actually tell you guys. Any other questions, please? More than
Sir,
happy
actually,
to.
there was one more question.
Please go for it.
It would just take few minutes. Actually, sir, there are psychologists who actually write these tests and questions in order to check emotional intelligence, in order to check the IQs. So, is there any test that you would like to suggest so that
I have actually.
so that an individual can find out his or her weakness and strengths? Is it possible?
Dear, I have actually needed exclusive exercise. I have spoken to a couple of good psychologists also, and they had come up with some very relevant questions during this turbulent times, and it's exclusively available on Badge Edu. It is something that is I've shared it with Urvi, and I'm sure after this session, Urvi is going to mail each one of you that questionnaire. And once you fill that questionnaire, once you actually answer the questions, right? We have strategists and we have researchers who would be really sitting on the answers that you gave us, and we would be more than happy to tell you your current EQ score, which I'm sure each one of you would be more than happy to know. So we have already.
Because sir, I really get confused when it comes to weakness and strength. So yeah,
What do you get
I
confused in?
think that might help.
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting.
Sorry, guys, I need to interrupt here. Shubham, we can take this offline because there are 2 questions and we have already exceeded our.
Yes, definitely.
So I can connect you to Ujjwal to discuss your this specific point. So then we can take it offline. Sorry, guys.
Yes, I would.
Go on.
Yeah.
Harsha?
Yes, Urvi. Hello, sir. Good evening.
Good evening, Harsha.
Hello, sir. Actually, I wanted to share an experience with you.
Yes, please go for it.
I was a working professional. I was working for Tech Mahindra before. So
yes,
I had this experience wherein there is a 5-day working. So during the weekends where I was supposed to get unwind and do my personal things, but I keep ending thinking about my office work again. And also, my previous boss, I mean, he's still a good man, but I don't. But for my due to my bad luck, he used to still appear in my dream. So all these things, what I'm trying to say is. I am not getting time to get unwind and come out of this office thing. So those 2 precious days, I don't have. I mean, it has not been used according to my wish. That's what
I think you love your boss too much. Sorry.
No, I think I'll tell you what, you get intimidated very fast. What happens is that when you again. When you look at your boss, right? When you talk to your boss, you first of all, I'm sure that your IQ level is very, very high, and by what you just told me right now, I'm able to really, really be very, very honest about it. That you should have a decent EQ score, but you're not scoring very well on EQ, because another way of actually. I would say that when you say that I'm a completely workaholic, and I on weekends also I'm only thinking about work. There is a subtle art of saying no. There's a subtle art of which you'll obviously learn in due course of time. When you just join a company, you obviously tend to slog a little bit. But then when you really understand the overall environment, and you start reacting to this environment, I'm talking about intellectually, I'm talking about your IQ level, IQ part also, and I'm talking about the EQ part also. You get more calmer and you might get more composed, and then you start understanding people. So I'm telling you that it's going to take a little bit of time. But what I can really tell you from this particular question that you've just thrown on me, that you also have to learn how to say subtly, very, very subtly, understanding that the way I explained about the body language, about the facial expression when you look at your boss, you can really gauge it that whether he's in a good mood or whether he's in a bad mood. And a subtle lot of saying no, a subtle politely saying no to him when it comes to extending your working hours and ruining your weekend. So that's how I can really help you. Anybody else, please?
That's the last question. If there
Suresh, you want to add something? You want to really add something? You know, I saw your very witty smile at that point of time when he asked this question, and Suresh was. I could really see amusement there. So, Suresh, would you like to really throw something on that?
No,
Maybe add something
no,
on a very serious note, because this is the problem.
no,
This is the problem, guys.
no. I think it's a Harsha. The kind of session it went, and people are actually opening up themselves quite openly. It started with Srivastava saying that, sir, I know all my weaknesses, but I'm not implementing in my language. Even though in some of my interviews also somebody asked me what are your strengths, knowing my weaknesses are the biggest strength. So that I could see in each of you who are actually admitting their weaknesses. That is the first strength you have. So
Absolutely right.
it's a beautiful way people are expressing. This wasn't there, but now it is actually opening up. Thanks, Ujjwal. It's a wonderful session. You actually motivated them. This is the external motivation. Again, I'm repeating you. Motivated them to come up. I am not agreeing that on that part at all. Exactly. But yes, I will prove it to you one day with some kind of a clauses. And it's wonderful, guys, to being there for about 1.5 hours. Thanks, Ujjwal, for taking our time. I look
Oh,
forward to having
thanks
some more.
everybody. Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much.
Thank you very much for
sorry,
giving me
I
such kind of
think
an opportunity.
I think there's
And
one last question. Nitin probably three times already raised that, and he
please, Nitin, go
so
for it.
Yes, sir.
Go
Good
for
evening,
it.
sir.
Yes, good evening, Nitin.
Yes. So basically, what happens is you tend to meet so many peoples in a day. So you interaction is basically with emotions. So you meet some people, your emotions trigger, and you get happy, and you are fully energized. And sometimes your energy becomes low. So basically, whenever we deal with emotions, the energy level also changes. But when something bad happens, so a day after or 2 days later, we usually do overthinking on it and end up using much more energy on it. So how can we conserve energy or ignore that part of overthinking for us?
See, when you talk about, I'll be talking about the bad emotion part that you were talking right now. You were talking about it when you meet a person that you first of all react to those particular emotions. Correct? That if I'm talking to you very blissfully, very nicely, it'll trigger a very happy emotion in you, and you will obviously react to that particular equation and emotion in the same fashion and reciprocate in the same fashion. And when I'm talking about bad emotion, when I'm just trying to trigger something very something that makes you angry, that makes you sad, and you will reciprocate it with similar kind of an emotion. Now, first and foremost thing, where what I want to really stress on this point. Obviously, I wanted to discuss it in the second session, but since you have also asked me, and Srivastava was also asking me the same question, this is a thing called self-regulation. Once you're through with your self-awareness, once you are aware of your own emotions, your own emotional loop of hell, that okay, I'm a very sadistic guy. Oh, I'm a very happy and a very chirpy guy. Oh, this triggers me. This triggers me this kind of emotion in me. Once you start identifying your own self at the next level, once you are very thorough with your own emotions, at the next level, you would be able to control straight away. You will be able to negate any form of, whether it is a happiness emotion, whether it is a sad emotion, from any external person. It can be a person, it can be an object also there. It can be a situation also there. So once you are aware of yourself, at the second level, you will be able to, at the second step, you will be able to control it. But any emotion, whether it's coming from anyone, you'll be able to do that. Now, how you want to really conserve your energy is ask yourself, as I told you in the self-awareness part, that never make decision when you have a good feeling. Never make decision when you have a bad feeling. Identify that particular emotion in external factors, or what Suresh was talking about, motivation, but I was talking about emotion. That when you look around in movies, when you look around anywhere, you'll find that similar emotion in those external factors. And at that very point of time, that's where that's what I was trying to talk about, is that you should be on your optimal zone and not react to that particular emotion. That's the only possible way how you can conserve your energy, or you can reserve that extra energy and not drain out emotionally. Because what you're trying to do there is you're letting the other person try to overcome. You're letting the other person trying to rule over your thought process. So you are trying. So it's kind of it's called brain mirroring in psychology. When you are completely fine tuned, your brain, your neuron level is completely fine tuned with the other person, and the other person is trying to control you. So at that point of time, you should be able to, and it's going to take time, dear. Within it's not going to be happen overnight. It's going to take some time. When you practice it, next time when you see the same person, or you would not choose to react in the same fashion. You should ask yourself that, yes, it's a deja vu. I've been into this situation. I don't intend to react to this particular emotion in such a fashion. So you'll be able to control it and negate it and stop it there and then. It'll take time. Obviously, it'll take time. First time you will falter. Second time you'll be less wrong. The third time, you'll be a little bit more proficient, and maybe slowly and steadily, you will be able to control it, and that particular emotion or thought will not bother you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. If we stay calm and if we take it easy, they will do it again and again. So I think I read something from Srivastava.
Guys, listen. We need to go. We have a call.
I'm so sorry. I am so sorry, guys, for this, for taking extra time. It was such a fantastic session, and I'm thanking Umbrella Edges. I'm thanking Brats for giving me such a sensitive topic. And next time, I promised you that there would not be a technical glitch. I was not able to, my hand and eye coordination was suffering a little bit this time. But we'll see you in a better shape and better topic this time. So tune
guys,
in.
quickly switch on your video so that before Priyanshi even says that we have a tradition and all, I am summing it up on her behalf. Quickly turn on your videos, and all your questions will be answered in the next session by Ujjwal. So stay tuned. Mahima, Shubran, Lucky.
Okay, I have my videos on, but Urvi, you know it that I can only see Hanki, Mr. Suresh Kumar Kurapati. I can see Sira. I can see Nitin Kotur. That's all I can see because I'm on the phone, and guys, I've just given an entire presentation on the phone.
No problem.
Believe it or not. So just like okay.
Priyanshi, did you manage to click some pictures? Sorry, guys, we have to just rush this, or rather wind up this meeting. Bye.
Fabulous, man. Fabulous. Thanks for bearing with me.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Love you guys. See you around.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Urvi. Thanks for this.
Bye.
Bye-bye, guys. Bye-bye.